Thank you so much, Ministers, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. It's great to see you all today. It's great to be here at this conference, and many thanks to the US Chamber of Commerce for hosting us all here today. This week, NATO heads of state and government will convene in Washington to celebrate NATO, the 75th anniversary of the most successful alliance in history. But we will do more than celebrate. We will also make important decisions for the future. And that will be decisions on how to step up our support for Ukraine. It will be decisions about how to further strengthen our partnership with partners around the globe, but in particular with our Asia-Pacific partners. And of course, it will be decisions on NATO's core task, deterrence and defense. And as you know, NATO's main purpose is to prevent war, is to preserve peace by providing credible deterrence every day to ensure that there is no room for miscalculation, misunderstanding in any capital about NATO's ability to defend and protect all allies. And as long as we have that credible deterrence, there will be no armed attack against any NATO ally. And therefore, we have been able to preserve peace for 75 years, no armed attack against the NATO ally. And we will be able to do that also in the future, as long as we ensure that we have the strong defense and the credible deterrence we need. And then we know, and that's why this conference is so important, is that there is no way to provide strong defense without a strong defense industry. We are totally dependent on you because you actually deliver and produce the capabilities we need, the weapons, the ammunition, the systems we need to have strong defense. The defense industry is also key to ensure that we have the ingenuity to maintain the technological edge that has always benefited the alliance. And you are also important because it's only when the cooperation between the governments and defense industry is working well that we are able not only to deliver the capabilities and the ingenuity, but also the interoperability we need to function as an alliance. So for all these reasons, we are very dependent on you. The good news is that you are also very dependent on us, because we are your only customer. So the only way you get contracts and so on to buy your products is actually that governments decides to invest more in defense. That's the source of our business. And therefore the good news is that allies are actually investing more. National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan mentioned some of the numbers. They are quite impressive. Because you have to understand that to be a politician, to allocate more money to defense, then you need to allocate less money to something else. So the difficult thing is not to be in favor of increasing defense spending. The difficult challenge is to tell what will then get less. Or will you increase taxes or increase deficits? But despite those difficulties, and despite the challenge that it is actually hard to allocate billions of extra for defense, that's exactly what allies have done. We made the pledge 10 years ago at the NATO summit in 2014 in Wales. And then 3 allies spent 2% of GDP on defense. This year, 23 allies will spend 2% or more. And some are actually spending significantly more than 2% on defense. And this has added billions to our defense budget, and a lot of that is actually going into contracts with the defense industry. And this is a result of a collective decision, a collective responsibility demonstrated by NATO allies, agreed some years ago, and then repeated again and again, and then we have mobilized the additional money for defense. Those allies who are not yet at 2% have promised to be there soon. 10 years ago, we agreed that 2% should be a kind of something we should strive towards. The language in the declaration we agreed 10 years ago was that we should strive towards reaching 2% of GDP for defense. And that has made a big difference. Now we have changed that language to saying that 2% is a minimum. So 2% is not longer some kind of ceiling, but 2% is now the floor for our defense spending. So we are not complacent, it's not good enough what we do now. We will do more. So there is a good, as I say, market outlook for you. Because defense spending will continue to increase and they will continue to invest in things you are delivering. This pledge to invest more is also reflected in a decision we will make at the NATO summit this week, and that is that all NATO allies will sign a new defense industrial pledge. And that will be a pledge that will help to make our industry across Europe and North America stronger, more innovative, and capable of producing at scale. The first element of that pledge is increased defense spending. The other main element in that pledge will be that we have to spend better by spending more together. And that's partly to ensure that we are able to actually sign the big contracts for the long term. And also partly to ensure that we are able to utilize the economy of scale, working together with the defense industry. And we have some good examples of how NATO allies are working together in signing contracts, developing capabilities in different ways. The F-35 fighter jets are manufactured in the United States, of course, but also in Belgium, Canada, Denmark, Germany, Greece, Italy, Finland, the Netherlands, Norway, and the United Kingdom. So it's actually something we do very much together as allies. Saab Gripen's, so the Gripen plane is of course Swedish ingenuity, but is also American components in that plane. We have the Storm Shadow, or the Scalp, which has proven so extremely critical in Ukraine, a joint effort produced by Franco-British companies, which again demonstrate how we are doing things together. We have the NATO Support and Procurement Agency, which is helping to facilitate that allies go together and buy things together. Last year, the NSPA, the Support and Procurement Agency, agreed contracts worth over $11 billion for ammunition and capabilities. And just today, the NSPA signed new multinational contracts for Stinger missiles worth almost $700 million. So we strongly believe that by utilizing the strength of this alliance to bring allies together, there are many other examples. We can utilize the economy of scale, we can give the demand, increase the demand for long-term contracts, and by working together, we're also ensuring interoperability, which is so critical for this alliance. The reality is that the war in Ukraine has demonstrated not only that the stocks are too small, have been too small, and that the production capacity has been too little, but has also demonstrated serious gaps in our interoperability. And the most best-known example is the Dutch-German brigade, where the whole idea is this brigade should be able to operate together. But the reality is that the 155 standard ammunition, which the Dutch has, cannot be used in German howitzers and vice versa. And that's the opposite of interoperability. And this is something we have to take extremely seriously as government and as industry. So we will also, part of this pledge, step up what we do to enforce, to ensure that allies actually deliver on interoperability, interchangeability of our capabilities. There are many other messages in the Defense Industrial Pledge we will agree this week, but let me mention one final one here today. and that is the need for us to work more closely with partners. That's partly Ukraine, and we are stepping up our cooperation with Ukraine. We are now taking over the lead as NATO for the provision of security assistance and training. We will have the command in Germany, 700 people there, and in some hubs in the eastern part of the alliance. We are doing that also to help to not only support, but also to invest and develop projects together, increase the capability of Ukraine to produce weapons and ammunition themselves. And again, some of you are already part of that. I met Rheinmetall, they told me about investments in Ukraine, other allies or other companies also investing in Ukraine. That's good because you bring capital and knowledge, but this is a two-way street because the Ukrainians also teach us a lot. They have combat experience and they have ingenuity that I strongly believe also actually strengthen our defense industry. So we will work more closely with the Ukrainians, and we welcome all initiatives and proposals you may have. But we will also work more closely with other partners. Part of the summit will be that we have one session where we have the heads of state and government from our 4 Asia-Pacific partners, Australia, New Zealand, Japan, and South Korea. They have all advanced defense industries, and part of what we have agreed as allies will be to step up our cooperation with them also when it comes to defense industry capability developments. So this summit will be a celebration summit, but as you understand, the only way to celebrate the most successful alliance in history is to demonstrate that we are fit for purpose also for the future. NATO is the most successful alliance in history because we have been able to unite around our core task to protect and defend each other, but also because NATO has always been able to adapt and change when the world is changing. Now the world is changing. We face serious security challenges, and therefore we need to step up our cooperation. We need to invest more, and not least we need to work more closely with the defense industry. Thank you so much.